Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what time it is where you are, but right now it is time for more insight. This is insight you can trust because there is more where it came from. Today, well, every day, I'm your host. I'm Chris Moore. You already know me, but today I got a special guest with me. Now, listen, every now and again, there's someone who steps into the ring and in the culture, not just to win, but to wake folks up. Our guest today ain't your average performer. He's a professional wrestler. Yes, a professional wrestler. He's an architect of narrative, a strategist of black pride, and a booker with a blueprint. You're gonna know him as a revolutionary, but around here, I call him a movement. He's the founder of Asé Wrestling, one of the most culturally intentional promotions in the game right now. He got a sharp mic game. His purpose is even sharper, and every time he steps in the ring, which we're gonna talk about, he's stepping back into the ring. He's making wrestling history. And I just want to welcome you from the indies to the impact, from pageantry to protest. Darius Lockhart is with us on More Insight today. How you doing today, Darius?
Doing a great job. It was a wonderful introduction, by the way. I love that. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, man. I put a lot of work into that kind of
No,
stuff,
it
man.
means a lot. It means a lot. It means a lot. And the small things, I tell people like this with wrestling. Sometimes adding an inch to a mile can add a mile to an inch. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
So,
then, even to that point, I've always been told you don't know how far you've gone until you're going too far. So
mhm,
I try to overextend myself more times than not.
it's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I always ask this question. I always have to figure it out. I gotta see where you are mentally. This
Mhm.
chapter, this phase in your life right now, if it were to be named a movie, it could be a movie that's already been done, or this could be your own title. You're a booker, so you probably have titles in your mind as I say this. This
Yeah.
phase, this chapter of your life, man. The name of this movie, what's the title?
It's got to be something about stepping into myself or, reevaluating my power, just reevaluating my power. It just feels like a moment where, I was put through a lot of trial and tribulations and turmoil in my personal life and in my professional life to some extent, but mostly the personal. And I feel like it's held me back in a lot of ways. But using Ashe as a creative output and letting it almost pouring into it is kind of poured in myself in a lot of ways. So now I finally get to a place where I'm recognizing myself in the mirror again. I feel like I'm picking myself back up on my feet and we're trying again and moving with a lot of heart and just being happy about where we are. So I think that's a big step, a part of my life right now.
I love that you said you're moving with heart. Um, so let's kind of start from the beginning. Let's start from the genesis. When did you even get into wrestling?
Yeah, I got into wrestling at 12 years old. And most people, have the 4, 5, 6, whatever. I didn't really check for it before then. And I think another kid recommended me to watch it when I was 12. I thought I knew what it would be. And as I started watching it, I started having an emotional reaction. And then I started watching the next week and the next week. And then it just snowballed to the point where, a couple months later, I'm buying wrestling magazines and DVDs to see the pay per views that I didn't, mom's not buying $55 pay per view. But
You already know, man. You already
right,
know.
right. I already know. So buying the Walmart DVD a month later and studying those to a T, and just learning everything I could about the sport. By the time I was like at least 13, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. So that's really where the love started. Watching the Hardy Boys on SmackDown and Raw, and those become like if they're from North Carolina, they made it and they put it in their own hands and got out the mud themselves, then I could do it too. That was my mindset.
And North Carolina is wrestling royalty. A lot
Man,
of great wrestlers have.
absolutely. And learning that, it was also a really cool wake up call to be like, wow, like, so this is a culture that, I live amongst and wasn't even hip to, wasn't even aware to. And as like just I don't want to say studious kid, but as a curious kid, I was just like, I just had to have more. I was always curious, always wanted to know more about what was happening before I got here. So when I started like learning about wrestling and seeing the pantheon of North Carolina wrestling history, I thought it was a beautiful thing that it existed in my backyard. So yeah, I was a student of the game early.
And it's just crazy how life is. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. So I was there during WCW heyday,
Yes,
when they
sir.
were recording Saturday Night Live on Wednesdays at Center Stage. My mother was taking me all the time. I remember being in the Georgia Dome when Goldberg versus Hogan happened.
Oh,
And now
whoa,
I was there, man, as a
dude,
kid.
that's
And
dope.
now I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. And there's also a rich legacy with Memphis wrestling. So uh, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life. I tapped out maybe in the 2010s.
Mhm.
Um,
So
but
I was
over the
looking.
last few years, I tapped back in.
Yeah.
And now my son, he's watching it every
Uh,
day. He's coming home. He's talking about Jay Uso. He's talking about
of
he's
course.
Fatu now. And he's only 3. And
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
been to the last 2 SmackDowns that have been in Memphis the last 2 years. And every time, man, just to see him light up, it's an unbelievable feeling. So to
It's
actually
something.
pass that on to my son, man, it's cool.
It's something really special. You know, my and excuse me, here is about the storm, so you might hear some thunder in the
It's all
background.
good.
But you know, my mother named me my middle name is named after one of my uncles who passed away before I was even born. And he took her to her first wrestling show when she was just a single digit child. And they had a strong relationship. He was the oldest of 5, she was the youngest of 5, so he took her different places. And he passed, and then later on, I was born and named after him. So for me to find wrestling on my own, and also like my mother fell in love with it, watching me interact with it, and
Yeah.
so for wrestling to be such a powerful tool to not only connect generations, but just pass it down to folks and pass down the love. Because ultimately, it's a morality play, right? We're all talking about storytelling here, and that's natural when you're talking about ancestral things, storytelling, passing on. So it's just a large scale, 4 dimensional version of that, and I think that it's beautiful when you can line heritage and your personal lineage with it.
Absolutely. And right now it's about that identity. It of course my son's 3. There's only so much identity that he has now. But for you, what did early identity look like? Because what you're doing, you have to be sure of yourself. Were you
Mm,
always this bold?
no, no, I don't think so. I think I was wanting to be a good kid. I was definitely charismatic at a young age. I used to tell jokes at church and things like that. I would try to do stand up when I was young. I tried to do some acting when I was younger. Yeah. And so that was always, I always wanted to be a performer and storyteller. That's what I did like. So I was bold in that retrospect. But in terms of culture, blackness just was. It wasn't something I thought about as a child until I started going to schools that were more like diverse and understanding that what I am. There's a lot of critique about people the last few years as we come into these movements, very vocal movements. Some people like to downtrod people with, oh, people just who are just not finding out that they're black or just realizing they're black.
Yeah,
You've heard that critique,
for
but I
sure.
think a lot of my times I never had that experience, but I kind of framed it as coming to self growing up. I figured out what it meant to be white, what whiteness was, and I think that was more of an informative come to knowledge moment for me, if anything. But growing up, my home life, I grew up 2 parent household for the most part until about age 10 they divorced. But 2 parent household, black church, family, big family reunions every year. So I knew life. I knew what my life was like. Then I got to high school, and things like start happening. You start waking up a little bit more. Trayvon happened. At the time we kind of looked similar, so a lot of people would bring that up to me, and I've realized the weight of that. He looks like me, and at first I just kind of thought of it like, oh, I don't like that dude. When you're a kid, I don't like him, and then you start thinking, well, what does it mean to really like see someone who looks like you go through something like that at a large scale? And as I went to college the next couple of years, I became an African Diaspora Studies minor. I took a lot of ADS courses, and that really like woke me up to some of the history that people don't let us be privy to if we don't pay for the
For sure.
education.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that. I hate to ramble. Sorry, I will make
No,
try to
you're
make this.
good. This is good.
But yeah, but it's as I started developing more in college and seeing artists that I loved and respect um, messaging through their work, hiding medicine in the candy is what I like to say. I've always been saying it.
I like
But
that.
seeing people like D'Angelo and Kendrick Lamar really step and say, "Hey, yeah, I make art. Yeah, I make good art, but I can also make good art that puts messaging in it, and you can rock with it. But if you listen closely, you get something up too." And at a moment where I was feeling a little bit, I guess, helpless as a young man, seeing day after day the Eric Garners, the Mike Browns, the everyone, and seeing people cop after cop get off, it felt like, and even into me running into personal like walls in pro wrestling of people holding me back because of whatever I was wearing or my race or whatever like that. It felt like people just didn't care about my life. And so I think that trying to repurpose my purpose and saying, I am not going to submit myself to feeling like no one cares about my life. I'm not going to submit myself to my blackness being a detriment. I want it to be a superpower, and I want to show people that it's a superpower, and I want to say you can live in it and you can love in it, and you can also, make great art and say something with that art. And that's all I really wanted to do because I felt helpless and I needed to do something. I mean, you see people like James Baldwin talk. They say the people who are frontline that's important. You have to be frontline as much as you can. That's good, but the writers matter too. The people who jog down the stories, the people who recollect, the storytellers, the artists. What is their job amongst revolution? What is their job amongst mental thought, mental change? And I kind of align myself with that thought process. That if I'm going to make art and I'm going to like call myself an artist, I'm going to be a pro wrestler, then that doesn't absolve me from, I don't want to say my responsibilities as a man, but my choices and my ability to do more in this lifetime. And I wanted to.
Man. So let me ask you this. You have this love for storytelling, but you also have this love for wrestling. At the time when you figured that your voice mattered, was there a person who told you like your voice actually matters outside of the ring? It matters with your love for storytelling. It matters for your love with wrestling. Was there anyone who just kind of pushed you and made you affirm you in a sense?
I don't know if it really was. I think there are teachers that come to mind, professors that come to mind. A professor that I really love named Dr. Norris Woods at University of Greensboro, North Carolina, and he was amazing. Just about opening me up to perspective, like shifting my perspective on what media is and what propaganda is and how it can be utilized. I think maybe through his work, he might have kind of gotten to me because that opened me to works of people like Kwame Ture and our Stokely Carmichael, some people know him as, it kind of opened me up to the works of Amiri Baraka, people along those lines. So I think seeing their work and reading a lot of what they had to say or watching old speeches, kind of moved me into that aspect, into that energy. Like I said, also like kind of coming into things with pro wrestling, some of my naysayers kind of made me. Maybe it was a chip on the shoulder type thing. Some people work better with a chip on their shoulder, but I think that people, asking me to take my gear off that's pro black or asking me, do you think that you might get booed tonight or worried about anything or wanting me to play a babyface because they're worried about what might happen if I'm a heel out there? Are
Yeah,
people just trying to really hurt me for real? All these things have
yeah,
happened. But these are things that are just like, hey, I think just life and experience has kind of melded me into this person. I don't know if it was one person to really push me and say you can do it. But seeing, like I said, D'Angelo, Kendrick Lamar, Pimper Butterfly, and Black Messiah, those albums came out in a 3 month span. And as mega fans as both from like day one, I was a fan of him. Like, what is it, Kendrick Lamar when the second EP dropped, the second mixtape, before he even blew up. So I've been watching that and seeing his trajectory of making the choice, going from this is Kendrick to Kendrick has something to say, to seeing
Kendrick has
D'Angelo make love for music for lovers to lovers and lovers who care about something. I think
exactly.
those are very, very strong factors. So I would say, like by proxy, the media I was digesting and the professors I was learning from.
Absolutely. So how was Asé Wrestling birthed? What was that process like?
Yeah, man. 2019, I was me and Saeed Al Sabah, who's a performer for us. He's part of a tag team called The Audacity with his brother Treehouse Lee. When there's more for them to see, they're gonna be amazing. But Saeed and I were we're close friends, and we were sitting around the couch one day around COVID time or right before COVID time, at least 2019, just talking about what a wrestling show that actually is culturally aware, that actually is on top of things, like that isn't so boxing and limiting and small minded. What would it look like if we could, do whatever? And it started with jokes like, "Yo, we put Jesus Zamero on commentary," to like, to just anything. What else we would do? But like silly gimmicks or whatever. But then we started kind of taking it more seriously and realizing how much it was needed. As the landscape opened itself up for pro wrestling, there were still so many caps for other people. New companies bust up. More shows are happening, but still not a lot of black performers on these shows. And if they are on these shows, they're not really elevating, right? They're not. They're only seen. A lot of times people will thumb their nose at you and say you're not. You're. What are you talking about in terms of representation or issues in terms of minorities in professional wrestling being represented? Because they'll sit there and they'll give you a list and they'll count the names and they'll say, well, what about this person? Da, 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 da. And right there, they're already limiting it to a numbers conversation when
Yep.
really it's a literature conversation. It's what is the page saying? I don't care how many pages in your book have black people in it. What are the pages saying that the black person is doing? What are they saying that the black person is? What are they saying? So that became important to us. So, I started kind of having these conversations with more professional wrestlers, me, Big Swole, Cedric Alexander, Yaya, Rayhan Antes. And for a little bit, we were kind of putting money in a pot together. We hadn't raised that much, but we were just putting money in a pot like monthly or weekly or so. I can't even remember. But COVID didn't happen. We were just kind of, hey, we'll come back to this when we can. Whatever. Real life is happening. And, as I went through my next couple years, going through the hardships I kind of went through, coming back to pro wrestling after COVID, and an injury. Really, I got injured right before COVID, so it ended up working itself
Wow.
out. Weird. But yeah, between that and then having to sit down, I took a leave of absence in 2022. Didn't want to make a big deal about it. I thought I was going to be gone for about a couple months, but I ended up taking a year and a half, almost 2 years off. But in that year and a half, almost 2 years, that was kind of the water and little growth of, almost I went through hating wrestling, not wanting to see it, to living with an old friend of mine for a little bit, and he had never watched wrestling before, and so I got to show him. He fell in love with wrestling, and watching him fall in love with wrestling and watching why he fell in love with it as a grown man, it reminded me why I fell in love with it. And so it was
Man.
kind of those things of like, man, it's time to come back and give a damn. If if you ever, anyone who ever worked with me can tell you, one thing I hate doing is saying I'm gonna do something and then not doing it. And if I do that, no, I didn't have a choice, or no, it really irked me to do it. But like, if I say, hey, we're gonna do this, 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 let's do it. And so it was in the back of my mind. You've been talking about doing Ashe a couple years now, 2, 3 years now. You're gonna do it, or you're gonna just BS. It's gonna be something you come back empty-handed and be like, yeah, let me try again. Please book me. No, let's take our power back and let's do what we said we're gonna do. And it's just a matter of saving money, making some smart investments, using that, just educating myself business wise, taking everything I learned about the last 10 years as a performer, all the conversations I eavesdropped on, and applying myself, and just creating a structure and an idea and a vision for Ashe. And so I just took a bunch of things I loved that we all talked about, things that mattered to me in terms of black media, people who did it right. And I guess I drew a picture and it looked like it was Ashe in my head. So I just kind of just started getting the ideas out. And that's kind of where we are now.
And the
I hope that
coolest
answered.
thing, no, you good. You good.
Yeah,
You definitely answered it.
cool.
One of the coolest things I love about Ashe is that it feels curated. It feels like it's produced like a mixtape, but with a meaning. So what's the heartbeat behind the show's production? From the presentation, the music, because you have
Mm.
a whole vibe going on. For those who are looking at this, those who are watching this, if you go to YouTube, go to Asé Wrestling, watch one episode, you're going to see wrestling, you're going to see entertainment, literal entertainment. They have rappers, performers who come on, and then you go right back into the wrestling. How did you even think about this?
Yeah. It was just one of those things where, like, once I said, those conversations with Saeed and I, we were always thinking of like, there's so much, there's so many black wrestlers, or not really so many, but there have been black wrestlers who became an opportunity to entertain on WWE television. But it always looks like, one way. And a lot of times we're there to, you know, promote, but maybe not provide. Does that make sense?
That does.
So it was just a thing of like, what does that look like at the same time? Because in so many other art forms, that ceiling doesn't seem to be there. When you watch Boomerang by Eddie Murphy, it just
One of my
is.
favorite movies.
It is one of my favorites as well. When you watch In Living Color, when you watch, um, you know, what's my show? Random Acts of Flyness by Terrence Nance, HBO special. It changed my life. When you watch things like that and see how many people got black artistry right, and then you see how many people in pro wrestling continue to get it wrong. You realize it's a choice, but it's also lack of knowledge and lack of vision. So I applied the visionaries that I looked to, the Issa Rays, the Robert Townsends, the Keenan Ivory Waynes, the Paul Heymans even, because Paul Heyman went to ECW and so while some people saw a locker room full of losers, he saw these people's strengths and hid their weaknesses and amplified
Exactly.
their strengths. So I took all these things that I really loved and cared about. So Ellis Haysberg, I have to give respect to that name because people don't know it. Ellis Hazlip, sorry, Ellis Hazlip. He curated a show called Soul between the 9 years of 1969 and 1974. It was almost a precursor for Soul Train. It didn't just have music though; they had political thought, they had activists, they had conversations. People don't realize that conversation that went viral every now and then. Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. That happened on the set of Soul. That happened on the episode of Soul. So these things, this guy had the vision earlier back then of showing black people not only in this box, but in all these ranges of boxes. He'd have an Alvin Ailey dancer on Thursday, and the next Thursday he'd have the Spinners. So it's just like it was all these things of like, wow, we can really, it's doable to uplift and celebrate black artistry and really the entire diaspora, the artistry of the diaspora, the culture of the diaspora across the globe. Because slave ship didn't just stop in one place. It was everywhere,
It was
And we
everywhere.
also
Legit.
we also didn't stay in one place. A lot of us chose to go other places. So we're migrated all around the world and have set up subcultures of blackness all over. So let's touch it. Let's talk. Let's live it, breathe it, and celebrate it, and don't minimize it. Let's not mock it. And if this card has a lot of people of color on it, black people, whatever, we don't even have to acknowledge. We don't have to pat ourselves on the back. I never want to say all black because we're not all black. There's so many people of different colors and ilks and walk of life who come support us, sit in the fans and audience, work backstage, work in the ring. We have white referees. Like there's people of all different things. So you don't really see it. But the idea was if I put all these black folks on a poster, I know what's going to happen. It's not about them being black. It's about them being characters and them not seeing opportunity. But what people see is what people see. And really, the entirety of Ashe is not only just a celebration of the culture, it's a mirror and it gets to be a Rorschach test for anybody watching. So I knew it had to be all these things. So therefore, it had to be careful and not it couldn't minimize itself to a one thing. It had to like legit open itself up to be not everything for everybody, but it had to be able to touch all aspects of it so you can't do this again to it. So I know that's big brained, like that was a weird way to say
No, no,
that,
no, no.
but that's really what it was really about. Looking at people who got it right, thinking about what I want to say and what I want to do with this, who I want to uplift, how I want to platform them, how people should be platformed to give an opportunity, and just applying it as such, man. Because like I love music, I love all these things, and I just thought that there's other people who love it and maybe don't love the other thing. But if we make everything about equal, it's easier to walk across. You know what I mean? If I got all this wrestling and like two things in music, then it's hard to get up on this thing. But if I got it a little bit right here, you go, oh, I see how they're similar. Yeah, boom. So it's an
And,
easy connection. That's the
and I
vibe.
love that you mentioned In Living Color because that's immediately what I thought about when I first saw it. I was like,
Oh,
I
great.
don't know why, but this has like In Living Color vibes.
Mhm.
And then even to the entertainment aspect, it's so, of course, it's like you see the casual fan only sees what they see.
Right.
But people who watch wrestling, who are into it, you can appreciate these smaller details, but it also appeals to the casual fan. So, for instance, one thing that I love is the female referee that's a part of Ashe Wrestling.
Yeah. Yo-yo.
I can't even remember her name, but I
Yolanda
remember
Wright.
one match she was touching on one of the guys, and then she checked the other guy and was like, "Oh yeah, you good." So
You
it's
good?
like
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
What's her name?
Yolanda Wright. We call her Miss Yo-Yo. Yeah.
Shouts out to Miss Yo Yo.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
doing your thing. I just want to give you your flowers on that one.
Mhm.
But to see something like that, it's such a small thing, but it's a big thing in the grand scheme of things because that one thing is entertaining to someone, and that's how you get people to come in.
It's knowing your audience, right? And if I'm empowering the people, those people are going to show up and they're going to
Hmm.
get it and see it. So a lot of things that we maybe wouldn't be able to get away with on, I don't know, just a general show that maybe don't have the same antennas for cultural moments or things like that. But to me, like when we did the Yolanda Khan thing, to me that was Soul Plane, Monique and the da 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 da.
Yeah.
That was any Tyler Perry play that I watched when I was like 8, bro. Like, at
Yeah,
some point you got to point out that this man is fine, so the girls can holler and yell and give him
for
something.
sure.
Because like we know what the conversations are. We know why you're here. We know what you're thinking. So it's like let's be fun with it. Let's poke the bear a little bit and do something that people are just aren't expecting, but just will make people chuckle. So stuff like that goes a long way. You say
Does.
that moment, but the same show we got to pop Keith Mack dressing up like homeboy from Coming to America.
Yes.
That went viral, and that was such a specific thing that he just pitched to me, and I was like, I think this is one of the only audiences who would get it. So I don't know where else he would do it. So do it here, and it works out. So I love that our locker room is that collaborative to where we can pitch these things that make us all feel a little familiar, a little bit familiarity in.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. What's one thing that makes the independent wrestling circuit more honest and more authentic than corporate wrestling?
I mean, you said the word corporate right there. You have less people to answer to. There's not such a pecking order. You got one or two people to prove things with, and you can gauge it. There's like your crowd if you've been around them a little bit. If you're building it, the people that are, excuse me, coming back to spend money with you. When you're working on that intimate of a level, sometimes you get to know these people, and sometimes you get to know what their reactions sound like, and so you start to gauge. Okay, they didn't like that one. Okay, okay, so I know that doesn't work. With corporate wrestling, there's so many ways to listen to your audience, and I'm not sure all of them are good ways. The internet is very loud and very vulgar, very hateful. And I'm not sure if you're a Tony Khan, you should always listen to it. You know what I mean? Like if you're Nick Khan, if you're a Triple H, you should always listen to these things, because it's a lot of noise too. And if you're gonna take every bad criticism, then you gotta take every. If you're gonna take every good criticism, you gotta take every bad criticism. So you have to realize how equal they both kind of are, and you have to eventually figure out what your actual statement is and focusing on that. And yeah, I think it's easier to just do that when you're independent. I just think that because
I
you
agree.
got the top floor.
You don't
Yeah.
have to deal with the IWC as they call it.
I mean, you do, but at the end of the day, the IWC is around the world, so they're not always coming to your show. The people in your area that you're marketing to, that's who's coming to the show. So if they're happy, whatever this guy in East Tennessee is tweeting about, no offense,
No,
is
all
tweeting
good.
about, then it is what it is.
Yeah,
But you can take the compliment or you can hurt, but I think that, and also just you don't have to worry about. I don't know. You don't have to worry about swimming downstream, so to speak.
I
With
like
the
that.
independent, the independent wrestler can swim upstream. The independent company can swim upstream and set a tone, set a culture, set a flavor, rather than always boating to try to appease everybody. That's one thing we have too.
And I think that's one of the issues that I have right now with one of the bigger wrestling promotions. Once they made a move to this streaming service, it feels like the product is kind of, I don't know, the product isn't the same because I
Mm,
know that this streaming company is trying to get those streaming numbers. So
mm,
they're bringing in random people to sit ringside. Um, I mean, I get it. They're it's a bottom line that they're trying to meet,
exactly.
but unfortunately, I think it takes away from the show.
Mm.
Granted, the money is good, but the money doesn't answer everything, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, dance for the
Uh,
dollar every time. That's what
absolutely,
that's what Saeed Alcivar always tells me. Can't dance for the dollar every time.
exactly. Because you are the lead of Asé Wrestling, how is it building a roster that's not just diverse in how you all look, but layered in the story?
Mm.
And talk to me a little bit about what makes Ashe Wrestling characters different from any other locker room.
It's a good question. It's exciting, first and foremost. Like getting to, being a professional wrestler for so long, for like, 8 to 10 years there, independence on the indies with people, you get to kind of like, you form a camaraderie, but you also get to see people like a little bit closer. And so these are people who are like somewhat become friends, if not, acquaintances. And I'm looking across, and you're always supposed to network across. I heard Issa Rae say network across, not up, and it helps a lot. So
Man,
looking left to right,
absolutely.
I'm like, man, you guys are so good, and there's people who just don't get it. And I hate that we're all losing opportunities because someone up there just doesn't get it. So it's not going to change. So someone up there looks like someone like us, or someone can at least listen to people like us. So I'll put myself in that position, whatever, if I got to. But we'll all I talked to people before Ashe even was Ashe, but it was a different name before we started in 2019. I would go to Faye Jackson and I'd be like, "Yo, if you could direct a vignette like of just anything to just sell yourself, what would it be?" And I would ask this to random people, and hearing them all describe it was never what anyone was doing with him. It was never. It was like, oh, the one thing that sounds like you. That's what I see you as. That's what I think
Right.
your gimmick is. You should be doing that. And I realized that no one's booking them to do these things. So a lot of that energy and that spirit and that attitude goes into Ashe. It's like, you know, I come to people and I go, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is what you are. Am I right? And if I'm right, then we'll say, okay, yeah. And then we're like, okay, well, let's think of a story that's going to amplify that and get that point across to people. And if I'm wrong, then they tell me and I go, oh, well, help me see it how you see it. And now we can paint a picture together to get the audience on that same page. Or, maybe it's a minimization thing of, hey, okay, you want to be this, well, let's take these two things away, and then I think you're more of that then to people, they can digest it. So it's a little being Paul Heyman. It's a little bit of getting people in the position, but it's exciting. A lot of, like I said, a lot of that process is just talking to people and understanding who they want to be and getting that to make sense in the grand scheme of wrestling. And I think that was the second part to that question you asked, but I don't remember if you
Yep.
what was the second.
The second part was basically just how does your locker room look different from everyone else?
Yeah. You see actualized character because no one is now regulated to a demographic feeder. No one, hey, you're gonna get the women here. Da 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 da. I mean, we can all look around and see who we probably appeal to, which is nice. And the more people we can appeal to, the more diverse this roster is, the better. I do believe that. But at the same time, that stress isn't on one person to be representative of everybody. So that's how it kind of looks different. So you get people who can be more actualized and also be more culturally specific and be more culturally aware. I think Faye Jackson's character comes off a little bit more authentic to people because they can understand that and they know her. And she's talking to people who speak her language a little bit, who see the value. That's really a big thing too. Our wrestlers are in front of an audience who see their value, so our wrestlers come off as more valuable, or as valuable as they should be, because other people don't see the value in cultural specifications. But
Absolutely.
like, for Owen Knight to whoop Darian Bingston's ass or attack him after a match, then pull out a phone and record it and say World Star, that's something like, bro, you can't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't write
You're not gonna
that
see that anywhere else.
for Gunther. And no shade, I love Gunther, but it's just such a different specific thing. So I think that's what our roster really looks like. It's a little bit similar for everybody, and that's not only on a physical level or a visual level, but on a what they're doing, like the emotional, what they're actually doing appeals to people.
And when you say things like that, it makes me feel like there's never just an inside joke. It's
Oh yeah.
definitely we all here, we all from the same culture. You know what this is, you can recognize it. Whereas in other promotions, you'll see it and it's like the audience just isn't clicking onto it. They're not capturing it because they don't know. It's the inside joke that they don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, and
Um,
then- and at the end of the day, if even if this is riddled with inside jokes, or communal jokes, at the end of the day, it's still wrestling too. So
it's
if
still
you didn't get the do rag joke, but the hip toss, the suplex right after it was dope. So hey, you're still in the action with us, right? So it just things. It's almost like it's like Marvel Easter eggs in a little weird way. It's like, yeah, if you could watch Iron Man 2 and like it, but if you saw that Captain America shit in the background, you'd be even more hyped.
exactly. And one thing I appreciate about Ashe Wrestling is that the wrestling feels authentic. It looks authentic. I think sometimes where I get a little detached from wrestling is when it looks too inauthentic.
Mhm.
But kudos to you all who are putting in that work because the moves look real.
Thank you. And I don't really like talking too much about how the candy is made. We talk about putting medicine in it, but I don't like to talk too much about how everything's made. But that is something that we make an effort to do. I tell people, your audience doesn't really know what it's like to someone to jump off like the ring and do 50 flips and the corkscrew axle onto them, a spiral tap to them. But they know what it's like to get punched in the face. So when it happens to you, make sure that they also know that you know what it's like to get punched in the face, you know, and make them feel that. So everything here has to count, especially when we're dealing. We have an interesting subsection of audience. Our audience is a lot of like a lot of wrestling fans, independent wrestling fans will show up, but we also appeal to a big casual audience and big family audience. So us simplifying it and dumbing things down a little is actually making everything better. Because we can all have 20-minute matches, but then it gets lost. So putting everything into context and making context count is a big factor, and I think that's what you say, wrestling being authentic.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a quick break right here. I want to tap into 3 questions here. This is my 3-on-3 segment. I'm going to give you 3 questions. You give me 3 answers, and I don't judge people, but I
Right.
do make assessments. So I
Okay.
listen, but I don't judge.
Well, you should, but
Uh,
tell me the assessment afterwards. I'm curious about the assessment.
I got you. I got you. All right. Question number 1. Give me 3 matches that prove wrestling is black art.
I'd say myself versus Lee Moriarty probably comes up to the first one. I'm really proud of that match, and I think that there's a lot of subtle things that are it's a conversation between 2 young black men coming of age in front of the wrestling community, and they both have different paths. And I think that whether you watch the promos beforehand and know that going in and are able to then contextualize, or if you watch it on mute, I think, and without the promos, I think you can kind of pick that up. That these are 2 people of a similar path, but maybe given different opportunities, but still come together and see each other and able to see each other in a midst of brotherhood. So I think that's what that match is about. Everything we do, the beginning and the end, the entrances, all of it's talking to that. So I think that's black art. That match. I'd say damn near anything John Gresham does is insane. I don't want to just put that, but I remember I think there was a 500th episode of Ring of Honor TV. I think it's him versus Jay Lethal. That match is you realize how much thought goes into that. That match is black art to me. And let me think about that last one because I want to give some love to the ladies here because I think that's also important. But honestly, if you really want to watch anything from Ashe, I would love Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steeles versus the King Bees. That match is black artistry in itself as well. They're telling a really beautiful story there. Um, and if you want to go more mainstream, just for another throw, I think uh, I think maybe Rock versus Booker, just in order the stakes are so high at the moment, given the context. SummerSlam 2001, I think that's another decent one if you're confining it to just black people versus black people. I think that's what you would kind of look to that as well.
Sidebar.
Hmm.
You mentioned The Rock and Booker T.
Hmm.
BET had Booker T as the number 1 black wrestler of all time
Hmm.
and The Rock number 2. How do
Hmm.
you feel about that assessment?
I hate to be a jerk, but I don't. List our list, right? List
Let's hear
are
this.
creating conversation. I was saying this the other day to someone. If you agree with everything on the list, then you wouldn't read the list. You would stop reading the list. You would just be like, I knew Michael was number one. Of course, he was number one. We know that. Like, stop showing me. You wouldn't keep needing the list. So you have to make something controversial at the top, so people are upset about it and look into it. But in terms of that actual ranking, I don't think there's anything that's wrong about it per se. If it's your
I
opinion,
agree.
in terms of like it depends on what you're scoring it under. Are you scoring ability, marketability, numbers, context? Um, there's a lot of context, and you can flip it either way. So, so it's just really like I don't blame BET. I thought that list was meant for it to be a top 10 list. I think right, it was 10 people.
I think it was 10, yeah.
I think I glanced over it, and I remember there was some notable names missing. And I think I would have taken more of an issue of that than who's number one and two between Rock and Booker. You're splitting hairs.
Okay. Just wanted to see what you thought about it.
It's
Um,
all love for everybody.
Give me 3 wrestlers who represent the future. And it could be Asé Wrestling.
Oh yeah. I think Yaya represents the future. I think a wrestler that we haven't gotten to have on site yet that I think I would really want to have them, but I haven't had Devon Monroe. I think they represent the future. I think when an out gay black man is able to be a world champion and people don't be homophobic and whatever about it, or like they can just stand the truth and we can just put the belt on someone like that and let them be themselves, that's when you really see what this can really turn into is really
Yes.
futurist. Like wrestling is such a it's such a an expansive medium that people are just afraid to expand, and I just think that's such a shame. But Devon Monroe represents the future. I could name more than three. That's the sad part, bro. I'm gonna say because Sunny Kiss also represents the future. Then,
Yes.
so I would her struggle, her story, it's incredible. So I think those three come to mind. Um, I think, but I look at a Maya World and Jada Stone, and I have to look at them too and say that's the future as well.
Got
Um,
it. So far, so good. I don't have
yeah,
no issues.
yeah.
Um, give
But
me.
go
Go ahead.
you're good. Go ahead. Oh, Javon Evans. I'll shout out Javon. Everyone loves Javon. And
Everybody
uh,
loves
and
it.
and, Sa- and Saquon Sugars.
Yes, I've seen that name. I haven't done my research yet, but I've seen the name.
So Saquon comes from North Carolina. So back when he was Lucky Ali, he and I won North Carolina Feud of the Year in his first year, in his rookie year. We put on a great story. So check up his work as Lucky Ali. He did a lot of good stuff for DPW. There's a lot of PWX stuff that he did out there. There's a cage match you can find for free online between him and myself at PWX on YouTube. I would
Oh
highly
man,
recommend that. So Saquon is we've had our differences in the past, obviously, feud of the year for a reason, but he's an expansive talent. I think I knew that the day I set eyes on him. So, Saquon Sugars.
man. All right. As a booker, you're the
Mhm.
owner. You own Asé Wrestling. You are the man in charge. Uh, HNIC, as Joe Clark and they would say
Yeah,
on Lean on Me.
yeah, yeah. For a while, I was kind of saying to people the HNIC of ASE, right? And I thought that had a nice
They,
little ring to it.
I see
But
what
yeah,
you did there.
yeah.
I see what
Thank
you
you,
did there.
thank you. Yeah,
Give
but
me
yeah,
your top three characters that you've booked or
and that's so
created storyline wise.
that's so difficult. Because I can't really give too much to creation. I think I've only created one thing in terms of like a group or whatever. But in terms of platforming, it's hard. Even though we're beefing right now, and I have a match coming up against him, it's hard to ignore the contributions of Darius Carter, the All Father. I mean, he's a quintessential big bad guy that everyone loves to boo, and everyone also hates to cheer. They would never cheer for him. He's a piece. But he's done fantastic work here so far, and his story with Billy Dixon, us having the privilege to continue their story rivalry that, to me, in my opinion, has not got a clear, plain platform that's like consecutive, that's cohesive, and I wanted to be that for them because they've told such an incredible story with a lot of nuance. The more you pay attention to it, and I want to be able to do that. So I think Billy versus Darius is one of the more expansive stories that we've been able to dip our toe into. Carter's amazing. I think I think the story of sisterhood that we've kind of tapped into with the King Bees and Fire and Flavor excites me. Um, I think being able to just platform those women and getting to get Fire and Flavor back and where it leads to, if you've been following that story, there's still more dominoes to fall over this next couple years. So,
Oh man,
please continue to watch and it'd be really sick. Um,
is it safe to say that y'all in the third inning?
Yeah, I would say that's a good reference. I get the point. How many innings are there in baseball again? 12?
It's
We'll
nine.
say nine. Nine innings. King Bees, yeah, we're definitely in the third or the fourth. Fire and Flavor story, yeah, definitely in the third. But yeah, there's that. One more character that I really am excited about that we've been able to pour into. It's kind of hard not to say the Cream Pie Poppy and the Ugly Gang. Uh,
Mm.
Because we've been able to have him not wrestle that much in the first year, and he's already over as hell. People know his song, and they sing it, and they throw cream pies. That's one of the things that I have to
When
gotta
you
give
got the
out.
crowd singing your song, you in
It's
there.
over. Yeah, it's up, dog. So and shout out to Yaya as well. He's been a star that we've been able to kind of water as well, and he's gonna be able to grow into our next big thing. So that's kind of our baby, our pet project. So
There's an
those are
exception
those.
for every rule. I'm supposed to
Mhm.
do three, but I'm going to add in another one.
Go ahead.
Give me your top three wrestlers of all time. I
By everybody else's standards, or just like what I like, who I like.
Who you like? This is your top three. It could be skill related, promo wise. Just you create your top three.
Yeah, I think CM Punk and Jeff Hardy were very integral to my childhood and what I view as important in pro wrestling. From a microphone ability and a storytelling ability, CM Punk is, he's one of my biggest influences. And I'd say Jeff Hardy in terms of what matters, selling, letting people feel your pain, the actual connection he creates with the audience. That's more important than anything. So I think there's it is nice and technically proficient as I like to be. Those are two performers that aren't always known for how clean and crisp they are, but what they did, look how much they matter to people. I think that means way more than being super perfect. Yeah. So those are two big ones. Those are two of my big threes. And the third one, man, that's hard. Because I hate to. I feel like I should give someone who's very technically proficient. There's three people that come into mind. There's The Rock, there's Steve Austin, and there's Bret Hart. Um, I feel like Bret Hart, I'm gonna go with him because he kind of completes that trilogy and what's missing in terms of who's big influence on me. But I think Rock and Austin are kind of similar to what Punk and Jeff represent. So I'll go with Bret Hart because physically what he's saying with hammer locks and headlocks is a beauty. So I think maybe Bret, Jeff, and Punk might be some of my three big ones, just because they've helped me as a performer click and see what's possible, what's necessary.
Think Bret Hart is the leader when it comes to like the technical ability. I feel like he ushered in the technical ability
Mm,
into wrestling.
mm.
Granted, I know there were people before him who were technical, but I don't know, man. That dude is like a masterclass in technical wrestling.
Yeah. Well, he
Um,
elevated it, right? Like he sold for it.
Elevated it. That's the perfect word.
Yeah, he sold for it and made people sell for it. And it's like a lot of days it's due to conditioning. You see something on TV for 50 years, it's just gonna seep in your brain. But when people get put in a small package, people get put in a sunset flip, they treat it like, oh, you stole a win, cheap win, oh man, you stole one from him.
And
That's a wrestling move.
it's a
And
wrestling
Bret
move.
Hart made it. He could finish someone with a sunset flip, and you believed it because it's a wrestling move, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're doing wrestling. So that's always my big thing. I love Bret.
Darius, talk to me about the future. I know you got a big event coming up.
Mm.
Can you talk to me more about that? First of all, it's an important date. That's the date I was born.
Oh,
So
happy birthday, brother.
I appreciate it, man. Talk to me about what you got coming up on June 28th.
June 28th, we have Ashé's, oh my God, ninth show, Return of the King. And this will be the return of hometown hero, Charlotte's own Cedric Alexander. We'll be in a new building, Slingshot. This is a game social lounge club. So they have a bar, we have alcohol. We got some for the grown folks this time. Some arcade games for the kids. So this is Ashe growing up a little bit, but also returning to our roots. Cedric is going to be wrestling one of our young stars, and as well as someone he helped train, the gifted one, Yaya, someone I said earlier. So Cedric and Yaya have a past, have a history. Cedric's had a big part of a lot of our history. He helped train me. He helped train Fast as Hell M. Maxwell. He helped train Cream Pie Poppy, Rayhan Antaeus, and he helped train Yaya and Movie Mike. So, and Savannah Evans. So a lot of us, this is kind of him coming back for the family and him having a relationship with Caprice, Caprice being one of his mentors and OGs. This is really like us welcoming our brother home. So it's going to be a really cool victory lap for Cedric to be back here in such a cool moment for him, come back to the independence and elevating, hopefully elevating all of us. As well, you have Jazz, who is a wrestling legend, pro wrestling legend, one of one. Jazz is going to be in the building. She'll be doing a meet and greet before the show starts, but she'll also be, I'm going to announce it here, she's going to be the special guest referee for the first round tournament matchup, which will also be a rematch, the second ever match between Faye Jackson and Karen Bam Bam Renee. So she'll be the special guest referee between those two. So that's going to be cool. They have a lot to settle, but they're the first round of the tournament. So we'll see who gets past, and we'll see if anyone gives Jazz some issues there. So we got that. The Pan African title will be on the line. I will be challenging myself for the Ashe Men's Championship versus Darius Carter. That is very near and dear to me. Darius Carter cheated and finessed his way through the finals back in
He's been
December.
poking the bear, man.
he should not have been there. But we need a replacement. He stepped up. He stepped in and screwed everybody on the way to the top. He took out my friend Billy. He took out Billy Dixon with a concerto to the steel steps. I still have to make him kind of pay back for that. We
Yeah.
got a little bit of a taste of that in Vegas with the 5-on-5 tag, but now I finally get to get him 1-on-1 again. And I'm angry, but anger has kind of got me in this position to where he's manipulated my anger. So now I'm trying to come with a clear mind and wrestle my ass off, and I'll wrestle this guy and take that title back so we can lead Ashe to the future and bring it back to what it's all about rather than just one man's narcissistic vision of what this place should be.
And
Yeah.
what makes me laugh and smile and just enjoy this is because Bubba Ray Dudley talks about this all the time. He talks about the psychology of wrestling. And
Mm,
what you all are doing is tapping into that psychology. You all are tapping
absolutely.
into the culture, tapping into what we all love, which is wrestling, and combining everything together. And I just love that for y'all.
Thank you,
Uh,
man.
what do you think about when you hear the psychology of wrestling?
I think about the way to tell stories. How you writing this story? Does things make sense? Wrestling is about reacting. I tell students that I help out at the school I go to. It's about reacting. Wrestling is a conversation. I should be able to watch you on mute and know what these two people are talking about. You know, if I hit you with a chop, you might take that and you might that ain't hurt. And you chop me and I fall down to the ground. Well, you see, okay, he a better chopper than me, and it's gonna be a hard uphill. That's two moves, and it just told everyone exactly what this is about to be. So I think when you say psychology of pro wrestling, that's what I'm thinking about. What story are we telling? How well are we doing to convey that story? And yes, some can be assisted through this, but if you can do it through this and actual grappling, then you're
And
ahead of everybody.
that's where
So
you win it.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what is the future of Ashe Wrestling? What are some things that you are looking forward to doing?
Ooh, expanding, more shows hopefully. Um, getting some more merch out, seeing more people out there supporting. Um, traveling eventually. I'm not keen on it. I'm not super excited about going everywhere just because it's like I'm trying to learn how to do this first and do it well. Vegas was a success. But Vegas was also a lot of stress going into it, and it was on me. So I have to, figure out how to do this the best way. But I would love to see Ashe on platforms and get bigger and better and find you know, uh, its own giant fan base, its own culture, so we can uplift this thing and see it grow, and maybe hopefully create a way for this to be sustainable where people can live off of Ashe for a while. I
Yes,
would love for us to get that way. So one day.
absolutely. Brand collabs. I saw that you all had Kev on stage,
Yeah,
featured on the commentary team.
yeah.
What does that look like when you're getting people recognizing Ashe Wrestling? What does that look like for the future?
Just more of it, anywhere we can get in where we can fit in. Someone recommended Ashe. I think Lovely Laveau recommended Ashe to Kev on stage, and he just kind of started interacting with us, tweeting, commenting on our pages. Let's go, and it was just to ask, hey, do you want to? I know you're going to be there. He said you're going to watch the show. You want to be on it, and he was elated, and so he was like, yeah, please, please, I want to be. I'd love to be on it. And so sometimes it's just more conversation, more networking, opening doors. So hopefully, as Kev, helps us amplify this a little bit more. There'll be other people who see it and want to be a part of it. So I saw Taraji P Henson in our likes a little bit a while ago. Maybe she'll be to come and do something. So you never know, you know.
And it's just crazy because again, you never know who's watching. So for me, I saw Ashe Wrestling through Kev on stage. I just started doing interviews a few months ago out of frustration because I'm a podcast producer. I got
Mm,
tired of telling people or trying to advise people on how to conduct a show. And now here I am in front of the mic when I'm used to being behind the mic. And who knows who's going to see this. So that's the beauty of what one of my friends calls the technology of community.
yeah,
And even more so when it's our community. So
absolutely, absolutely.
absolutely,
And,
man.
and people are watching all over. Trust me, there are definitely people watching. Um, I'll say this: the more you see of Ashe, the more you start seeing Ashe on TV. And if you get eagle eyed, the more you'll start seeing it. So there's a lot of people who watch us, and I'm just elated that we can be influential on the underground this low. But as the higher we go, let's get a lot more people watching us, a lot more people supporting and tuning in.
Definitely. I definitely want to get back with you again because I wanted to focus more so on Asé Wrestling this time. The next time I talk to you, I definitely want to talk about more of your wrestling background. But I just figured as a CEO, you want to see more about Asé and talk more about that than yourself.
It's
Um,
a little bit of both. I think I could do better about talking about me more. To get you know, uh, there's a responsibility of being the face of this brand and kind of pushing it forward to make it, mean something and matter to folks. At the same time, I'm trying to ride a line of not Jeff Jarretting myself, not like, overbooking and over. I don't want this to be the Darius Lockhart show because it's bigger than me. So, with me being trepidatious about that, sometimes I take too much of a back seat, and I'm trying to find that line. So I appreciate though you give me the opportunity to showcase the brand and show love.
Absolutely. Can I buy some merch online?
You absolutely can. You can do everything online with us. You can go
Okay.
to wrestling.com. No apostrophe over the E. You don't have to do it. Just wrestling.com. And there'll be a bunch of tabs. You'll see Watch Ashe. If you watch Ashe, you can order our shows like the pay-per-view streams from there. You can go to shop. There's tons of merchandise. There's hoodies. These come in different colors. There's t-shirts. These come in different colors. There's some Darius Lockhart designs on there. There's some different Ashe the Cool designs on there. You can kind of customize it as you see fit. We got bucket hats. We got snapbacks. We got baseball caps. We got toboggans, burgundies, scullies, whatever you want to call them. We have a bunch of things. So please go to AsheWrestling.com and check out what you need. If you want to see a little bit more Ashe before you start spending money with us, check out our YouTube page. We end up backlogging a lot of the older shows once they hit a certain time mark. We feel like it is what it is. We put it up for Ashe Wrestling TV, and I think that's a good way to find out what we're all about. So going to AsheWrestling.com can also lead you to the YouTube page and everything else. Please go there, support, buy, watch, and share. Share us to everybody.
And where can they find you on social media? You and Asé Wrestling.
Find Ashe Wrestling at Ashe Wrestling anywhere on all platforms is at Ashe Wrestling. And for me, it's at Darius Lockhart on Instagram and at DLock Pro on Twitter. But most people are getting off of Twitter and X. It's kind of a hellscape there. But if you look up Ashe Wrestling and Darius Lockhart, I should be the one to come up. I have my own website as well. Do some Googles. It'll lead you everywhere you need to go. Both websites, DariusLockhart.com, AsheWrestling.com, will take you wherever you need to go.
There y'all have it. The man, the myth, the legend, Darius Lockhart came by to more insight. This is insight you can trust because there is more where it came from. Darius, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate
Thank you
you.
so much for having me, Chris. Thank you very much.